The glass shook so hard I thought the whole door would come down. 3 men in police uniforms stood outside, one with a crowbar, another with a hammer, shouting, "Open up! This property is under HOA violation." My stomach tightened, but before I could even step forward, my wife calmly walked past me. She didn't flinch at the smashed glass. She didn't even look scared. She held up a folder with bold red letters that read, "Wanted," showing their faces printed clear as day. The so-called officers froze. My wife's voice cut through the air, steady and sharp. "Funny thing, you boys have been under investigation for weeks." Their fake badges gleamed under the sun, but their eyes told the truth. They weren't expecting anyone inside to know. One of them tried to cover it up, yelling, "This is official HOA business. Step aside." But I could already see their panic. I looked at my wife in disbelief, still trying to process. She had never told me she was working on anything like this. She tilted her head just slightly as if saying, "Trust me." The man with the crowbar tried to push the door, but she didn't move an inch. Instead, she whispered, just loud enough for them to hear, "You broke into the wrong house today?" And in that silence, I realized something chilling. The HOA didn't just send notices anymore. They sent men dressed like cops to smash through doors. The man in front gritted his teeth, pressing the crowbar harder against the door as if force alone could cover their lie. "Step back, ma'am, or this gets ugly," he barked. But my wife didn't step back. She stepped closer. Her FBI badge swung forward, catching the sunlight, and the room went so quiet that even the lake outside felt frozen. "You've been pretending to be police?" she said, her tone almost casual. But the thing is, you're already wanted for impersonation, fraud, and extortion. And now you just smash federal property?" She pointed at the shattered glass behind me. The men shifted uncomfortably, but the one holding the hammer raised it higher, trying to look tough. I clenched my fists, my heart racing, but my wife lifted her hand slightly toward me as if saying, "Don't move." She still had full control of the room. Then, in a calm voice that somehow sounded even more dangerous, she added, "Smile for the hidden cameras. Every move you make is already being uploaded." That broke their confidence. One of them muttered, "She's bluffing." But another's eyes darted toward the corners of the cabin, searching for the cameras. My wife leaned in, lowering her voice to a razor-sharp whisper. "You want to test if I'm bluffing? Go ahead. Make one more move." For the first time, the leader hesitated. His knuckles tightened around the crowbar, but his bravado cracked just enough for me to see it. They had come to intimidate, to scare us out, but they had no idea the person waiting inside wasn't a victim. She was the hunter. The leader finally shoved the crowbar against the door frame, trying to push his way in, but before I could react, my wife snapped her fingers and 2 black SUVs rolled up behind them, tires crunching against the gravel. Real federal agents jumped out, weapons drawn, shouting commands that cut through the air. "Drop it! Hands where we can see them!" The fake cops froze, their entire act crumbling in seconds. One dropped the hammer so fast it thudded against the porch. The leader, though, still tried to save face. He barked, "This is HOA jurisdiction, you can't..." But then my wife held up a printed file, thick and sealed with an official stamp. "Wrong again," she said, flipping it open for everyone to see. "This isn't HOA business. This is a federal crime ring tied to property scams, staged evictions, and stolen homes. And you 3 clowns just gave me everything I needed by breaking my door." Their eyes widened. They weren't just busted, they were trapped. The SUVs had blocked their escape, and more agents were closing in. I looked at my wife, stunned. For weeks, I thought she was just dealing with paperwork, phone calls, and late nights. But she had been running an undercover sting operation right under my nose. The leader finally dropped his crowbar, but it was too late. Agents swarmed him, pushing him to the ground, reading his rights. My wife turned back to me, calm as ever, and whispered, "Told you to trust me?" But just when I thought it was over, one of the men being cuffed shouted something that made my stomach drop. "You don't even know who's really behind this." The agents pressed the men against the SUVs, but that last sentence echoed like a warning. My wife's eyes narrowed. She crouched down near the ringleader as he was cuffed, her voice sharp. "Who's behind this?" The man smirked through split lips, almost enjoying the moment. "You think the three of us pulled this off alone? We were hired. The HOA president. She's not who you think she is." His words sent a chill through me. The agents tried to drag him away, but my wife raised a hand. "Wait." Her tone carried weight, and even the agents hesitated. She leaned closer. "Names. Give me names." The man laughed low and bitter. "She calls herself Karen to you. To us, she's just the banker. She's buying up properties, forcing families out, and you were next." He glanced up at me with a sick grin. "Why do you think your HOA fees tripled overnight?" My chest tightened. I remembered the sudden letters, the threats, the warnings about my land not being up to code. All of it made sense now. This wasn't about grass length or fence color. It was about control. My wife stood, her jaw set. "We need to move. If she knows her men failed, she'll cover her tracks fast." She looked at me with urgency. "And she'll come after you." I swallowed hard. For the first time, it hit me. Karen wasn't just a nosy neighbor with fake rules. She was running something bigger, darker. And we had just ripped off the mask, and before I could even catch my breath, one of the SUV radios crackled with a chilling message. "Target leaving residence now. Repeat, the HOA president is on the move." The agents immediately snapped into motion, radios buzzing, boots pounding against the gravel. One SUV tore off down the road, sirens flashing, but my wife grabbed my arm before I could even process what was happening. "She's not running," she said under her breath. "She's repositioning." A split second later, the sound of tires screeched from the opposite direction. A black luxury car barreled down the hill, Karen's face visible through the windshield, twisted with fury. She wasn't escaping. She was charging straight at us. "Move!" One agent shouted, pulling me aside as the car swerved violently toward the cabin. The bumper clipped one of the SUVs, sparks flying. Karen leaned out the window, screaming like a madwoman. "This is my land! You don't belong here!" Her voice cut through the chaos, every word dripping with entitlement and rage. My wife didn't flinch. She drew herself up, stepping forward as if daring Karen to come closer. The agents raised their weapons, but Karen slammed the brakes just feet from the porch. Dust clouding the air, she stepped out in high heels and a blazer, waving stacks of papers like they were weapons. "These," she yelled, throwing them onto the ground, "are legal eviction notices. This man owes us thousands. He's a trespasser and you're protecting a criminal." Her voice carried so loud that neighbors had started peeking out from across the lake. The papers fluttered in the wind, but when one landed at my feet, I saw it. No seal, no signature, just the HOA logo, crudely stamped, fake, all of it. My wife picked up a page, holding it up like evidence. Calmly, she said, "Karen, you forged legal documents, hired felons to impersonate police, and tried to run over federal agents. Do you really think anyone's buying this act anymore?" Karen's face twitched, her bravado slipping for a moment, but then she smiled coldly and muttered, "You still don't get it. I'm not the one who forged these. I'm the one who owns the judge." The crowd of neighbors was growing now, phones out, recording every second. Karen noticed them and instantly shifted gears, raising her voice so all could hear. "These agents are abusing power. This man refused to pay his HOA fees, and now they're staging some circus to protect him." She threw her arms wide, pretending to be the victim. Some neighbors murmured, unsure, but others whispered what they had just seen: the fake cops, the smashed glass, the SUVs. The tension was like a wire about to snap. My wife didn't shout back. She stepped into the center, holding up one of the fake eviction papers for everyone to see. "Look closely," she said. "No judge's seal, no courthouse signature, just a stamp made on a cheap printer. This isn't law, it's fraud." She let the page flutter to the ground, and the cameras of every phone followed it. Karen's smile faltered, but she wasn't finished. She pulled out her phone, waving it in the air. "You think paper proves anything? One call and the sheriff himself will drag you out of here in handcuffs." Before anyone could react, she hit dial and put the phone on the speaker. A gruff voice answered almost immediately. "Karen, I told you I'd handle it. Do I need to come down there myself?" The crowd gasped. She did have someone in law enforcement backing her. My wife's jaw tightened, but her eyes burned with a strange calm. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device, pressing one button. Suddenly, the voice on the phone replayed louder, echoing from a speaker. Only this time, it continued past what we heard live. "As long as no one finds out about the money transfers, keep him quiet and it's yours." The crowd erupted. Gasps, shouts, phones lifted higher. The sheriff's voice was now evidence of corruption, recorded and undeniable. Karen's face drained of color. My wife turned to the neighbors, her voice sharp and unshakable. "This isn't about HOA rules. This is about power, money, and intimidation. And it ends tonight." Karen stumbled back toward her car, panic flashing in her eyes, but the agents were already closing in. Karen's heels clicked frantically against the gravel as she tried to dart back to her car, but two agents intercepted her, blocking the driver's side. She spun toward the crowd, desperation twisting her face. "Don't believe them," she screamed, her voice cracking. "This is a setup. He's a criminal, a squatter. You're all being lied to." But the neighbors weren't buying it anymore. One shouted, "Then why'd you send fake cops?" Another yelled, "I saw you try to run him over." Phones stayed locked on her every move, and the truth was unraveling faster than she could spin it. In a last burst of madness, Karen lunged toward my wife, grabbing for the recording device. "Give me that!" she shrieked. But my wife was quicker. She twisted Karen's wrist, forcing her to the ground with practiced ease. The agents swarmed in, snapping cuffs around her wrists as the crowd cheered. "Karen Miller," one agent announced loudly, "you're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, impersonation of law enforcement, and attempted assault with a deadly weapon." The list went on, but all I could hear was the sound of neighbors clapping, voices rising in relief. Karen thrashed, her face red, spitting out one last venomous line. "You'll regret this. I own this town. You can't stop me." But my wife leaned down close enough so only Karen could hear and said calmly, "You picked the wrong family and the wrong country." The crowd roared, some chanting, "Justice!" as agents led Karen into the SUV. My wife finally turned to me, her shoulders easing for the first time. "It's over," she whispered. But I could see in her eyes it wasn't just relief. It was pride. She had fought for our home, for the law, and for the truth. I wrapped my arm around her, looking out at the neighbors still recording, knowing this moment would spread far beyond the lake. And I couldn't help but say it, the words that had been burning inside me since it all began. I didn't fight for this land just to hand it over to people like her. Not now. Not